right, welcome everybody. It's 6:34 on beautiful May 17th evening. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Rashmi Krishnaraj, the co-president of President Council. Francis Gonzalez will be a few minutes late. I'll just give a few minutes for my board to introduce themselves. Thank you, Louis, for being here. Thank you, Mr. DiMango and Esther, for helping us out and being here. Go ahead, Eleni and Christine, just introduce yourself and then we can go forward.
Hi, my name is Eleni Livadidis and I am the recording secretary for President Council.
Hi, I'm Christine New and I'm the treasurer for President's Council.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen and do the minutes approval as the order of business, and then we will have superintendent's report. Can everybody see the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Perfect. Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I motion to approve the minutes.
Perfect. Okay, great. The minutes hereby has been adopted. I'll stop sharing. Okay, all right, Mr. DiMango, your floor is all yours.
Thank you. So normally what I would do, just so all the presidents here today know, is so I would do my presentation at a CEC meeting and then kind of redo it at the President's Council meeting. But since our CEC meetings are now recorded and put on our public website, and I'm going to ask Louis to kind of pop that into the chat again so you guys have it. For the sake of time and specific conversations that will be happening at the that are aligned to President's Council, I'm going to have you guys say and let you guys know that the information around the district, it's only about 3 or 4 days difference. If you guys are interested in looking at that report, to go back and look at the CEC, my report on the CEC, but there's a few different things that I would like to address with you guys as president of President's Councils tonight. So first, we know that our Chancellor will be doing her town hall tomorrow night at a special CEC meeting. So we welcome her and we're really excited to have her spend some time engaging with our CEC. I have to say the CEC really did a fabulous job with organizing questions that are aligned to concerns and questions that I hear at the superintendent level. I know that they sent out surveys to the community, and they really worked really hard together to make sure that they captured questions that you would have to address the chancellor. So I want to thank them for that, because it was multiple meetings, and they are really ready to meet with, welcome our chancellor to District 25, have an opportunity to say how amazing we are as a district, but also ask some really tough questions that you guys have been asking. So I want to say thank you to that, and I welcome you all to be on that meeting tomorrow. It does start at 6 o'clock. And Louis, if you could pop that flyer in the chat, thank you. You already did it. Just so everybody has
6:30. 6:30.
I was just gonna say 6:30.
Oh, it's at 6:30? What did,
Yeah.
oh. I thought it
I
was
think you might be
7.
meeting at 6 o'clock with
Right.
with
Oh, I am,
elected,
that's right.
yeah.
All right, so mine goes from 6 to 7:30. You guys are at 6:30. So I do welcome you to join to see the CEC engaging with the chancellor. As I said, they really did a phenomenal job. I want to give a big thank you to Christine Caniglio at some time today, and her PTA for the work that they did to raise the money to pay the chocolate company that they owed them, that were being sued. They had a really great idea that I want her to share with you guys following my report. And so they got themselves out of debt. So a round of applause for you guys. I think it wasn't really nice that that chocolate company was doing that. I think they needed to be a little bit more considerate, but Christine, I know she did negotiate a deal with them and was able to raise money. And not only was she able to raise money, but what she did looks beautiful. It's like a beautiful accent to the school and the community. And she made extra money doing it. So I wanted her to share time, but that's great job and great parent leadership on your end. So I want to say thank you to that. In the idea of parent leadership, I really want to encourage you guys to work with each other, create a forum of support for each other at this time of the year, especially around ensuring that you get out information for your PTA elections, that you are working to get aboard. If you need any support from myself and my team just around reaching out to families in other languages, we're happy to help. I just had a conversation this morning with another parent leader who's here tonight, just around working with the school, the principal, to ensure that there is a pool of candidates available for, to run for PTAs. I know that many of you have a difficult time doing that. And so I was hoping tonight that you guys can share some feedback on what you did, if you came across that, what that can look like, how you can right now get out the vote to ensure that we have our PTAs in place at the end of this year, so we don't have any schools that we have to worry about come September. So I wanted to give Esther a second to just talk a little bit about that, because I know some parents have been reaching out to us just around what elections can and should look like, how they can get more parent involvement. So Esther, did you want to just kind of touch base on that a little bit?
If anybody needs help in regards to your upcoming elections, don't hesitate to reach out. We're just encouraging all of you. Chancellor's regulation, the 3 mandated positions are president, treasurer, and secretary. The bylaws were changed a few years ago where only one of them needs to be elected, and you have a functioning, you have a PTA, but at District 25, we go ahead and encourage everybody to have all 3 positions so that you don't have to worry about that in September. And then you could go ahead and start with flying colors and go ahead and start your fundraising and everything that you have to do at the beginning of the school year. But anything that you need, please do not hesitate to reach out. Again, if you have any questions in regards to Zoom or setting up or the codes or anything, your parent coordinator should be able to help you out. And just to invite all the parents, all information is on the Parent University, and you could access that through your NYC school accounts. And you could see everything that, all the trainings that they had with recordings and PowerPoints, etc. That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you, Esther. So like I had said, and additionally, in terms of organizing that at the school level, if you have some concerns about outreach to parents and you want an additional push for, concentration around your election, please also meet with your school principal and share your concerns. Like, we want more parent members to be part of that. What does parent engagement look like? That's something that Dr. D'Antona and I spend a lot of time talking to principals about. What does parent leadership look like? How can the principal support that? By no means, and Esther and I are really clear to parents and parent coordinators that we are there to support you. We are not there in any way, shape, or form to make decisions for the PTA, to run your PTAs for you. But this year in particular, we have heard concerns from many of parents and parent leaders that there may be issues with elections this year, just in terms of parent engagement. And part of it is because we haven't been in school, right? Like, we haven't been able to engage in the regular types of events and activities and communication and seeing parents and just being together. So I do encourage all of you to work together to kind of share ideas around what's working and how we can bring parents back into the schools. So today, for example, I had a conversation with one of my principals just around how she keeps data for a teacher's parent communication. And one of the things that we read, the teacher across her chart just wrote the whole time, spoke to mom, spoke to mom, spoke to mom, spoke to mom. And one of the things that I recommended is, are there any other family members that are connected with the schools that a teacher might want to reach out to and invite to schools, for certain activities and events? We also talked about maybe having PTAs kind of work alongside a principal around things like town halls that we've never had before. So for a principal to engage in a town hall meeting where she talks about, or he talks about, what's happening in September, what's going to be new about Summer Rising, and then at the same time connecting a PTA announcement to that, so parents are already on and the PTAs are, kind of able to just sort of pick up on that and encourage parent engagement in different ways. So like I said, any ideas that you want to share with each other, if you want to kind of bounce a couple of things off of us, we are really looking forward to hearing about how parent engagement and parent leadership looks differently this year. We've done a lot of work around how education has looked differently this year, right? In first the blended model and then the in-school and remote model. And that's inclusive of parent engagement. And we're looking forward to hearing from you guys around what's working and what's not, or how we can kind of build our own models across the district and share them amongst each other. And then finally, one of the things that I want us to engage in together tonight, if parents have any questions, is that, one of the things that I encourage as a principal and now as a superintendent around parent leadership is that when we sit at the table and we make decisions as a PTA, as an SLT, as a certain committee meeting, that when we are sharing in that information and we all come to consensus around a decision, that that decision works in the best interest of the schools. One of the things that I've spoken to principals about is really listening to parents around certain situations that have occurred, especially because of this pandemic, to be open and honest around things that we can control and certain things that we cannot, right? So there are certain things that the district and principals have to wait for clearance from central offices or the mayor's office until we can start to do certain things and go back to certain celebratory events that we used to do before. So I want to open up discussions and ask questions about graduation ceremonies. I know that there are a lot of questions going around with parents. I want to be able to talk through the guidelines that principals have to work through right now, and then give some examples of some of the work that our schools have done to really look at each individual school and what is possible, what they can and cannot do. And then to really engage in conversations as parent leaders, and to be able to support that when we get questions or concerns from families. Because what happens is there are parents that are sitting at meetings making decisions, and if they don't like the decision, then they're going outside to the community and complaining, and then it comes back to us as a complaint. So I'm trying to sort of eliminate those kind of situations where, as a principal, if I made decisions with parent leaders, we made it together, right? So that includes when you're sitting at the table representing your parents, that you are, I'm not looking at, let's just say, Esther as somebody who's being argumentative. I'm looking at Esther as somebody who's representing her parents. So if we come to a consensus together, then as the principal, I supported the decision of a team, and the parent supported the decision of a team. So I'm hoping that we can kind of unpack that together tonight and talk about some of the concerns that you're hearing about graduation ceremonies. So the first thing that I want everyone to know, I don't care what you hear from the community. As of today, 5/17 at 6:50 p.m., and it could change because everything changes, there are no indoor graduation ceremonies. I don't care what you hear on NBC News. I don't care what the governor said today. There are no indoor graduation ceremonies at the DOE. So that's not even up for discussion right now. And that's where these things start, right?
I'm sorry that I'm laughing.
Because I'm sure you already got the questions, right? So that's not to say it's not going to change. And I really want to be honest with what I said to principals, okay? I know some schools were saying virtual, right? And then some parents were giving pushback. What I've been saying to principals is, get your SLT and your PTA together and look at what's possible, right? I have said about graduations that they need to be inclusive of every graduate. It can't just be certain kids and not certain kids. And what we do know is, as of today, 5/17, now 6:51 p.m., there are no indoor graduation ceremonies. So very subject to change. And if we can all come to the table and really be open and honest and prepare for that, we can have the best celebratory experiences for our kids. And I know we all want that. And I want that too. But we need to be understanding of the guidelines that we are up against today at 5/17 at 6:51, right? And then talk about what is possible. I've said things to principals, just so you know, and I know that you guys have not really had opportunities to fundraise, but I've said things to principals like, for outside, if we have issues in affording tents, ask the PTA if they have any money, right? And what graduation looks like. So you might hear principals asking those discussions, and to kind of go back and forth. We have to start having those conversations now, because we know that tents are going to cost more than what you guys are allowed to spend without going back to the parent body, right? So I do suggest that those conversations, and we make sure that they start happening now. If you have not have scheduled time to meet with your principal to really talk about these end of year activities, please make sure you do so now. And please know that as part of parent leadership, the expectation for us, and I'm not even saying this in a bad way, the expectation for us is that you would want to have those conversations. We may not always agree, right? But we all work in the best interest of kids, right? So that's really the conversation that I wanted to have with you, and answer any questions that you have of me, but to also say that I have laid the groundwork for you guys with our principals that you guys should be doing outreach to discuss end of year activities. I know many of you already have, but so just wanted to spend some time really being open and honest with each other around these conversations, because I think they're important and necessary just around how we can create the best opportunities for our kids. So any questions?
I don't think anybody will ask any question after that assertive statement.
Which one?
No indoor graduation. That was so clear and concise.
And that's the Chancellor's rule, not Danielle's
No,
rule.
yeah, and it's not just the Chancellor's rule. I think, and honestly, and that's where we say things change so quickly,
Right.
that we should be prepared if something like that happens. Because the problem is, and I'll say just for somebody who's a middle school principal, by now, I already had my venue booked. I already had it half paid for. Flowers were ordered, graduation caps and gowns were ordered. All of those things were done. And right now we don't have that, right? So for our schools in District 25, especially our upper grades that had graduation ceremonies at St. John's or Queens College or things like that, we know that those venues are not booked right now because we're not allowed to have any indoor ceremonies, right? So, and then we also know I spent time this week at certain schools really going out into their their schoolyards and saying, oh, here's what you could do. And then we talked about like, what's a rain date look like? What kind of parents want to sit in pouring rain if it does? What should tents look like? How can we best prepare for that? So I've also been saying to principals, like, you need to do these walkthroughs with parents too, right? I have a lot of parents saying like, I don't want to have a ceremony if we can only have 2 people. Well, like as of right now, my son's graduating from high school. I'm only allowed to bring 2 people, me and my husband. I have like 10 family members that I want to bring, right? They're all going to be sitting at home and having to watch it live streamed because as of right now, unfortunately, that's what we're going through, right? So I'm hoping that will change because the governor said something different today. But as of right now, that's where we are. So what I'm saying is, I think I've been telling principals that they have to plan, but I think they need you to help them do that too, right? If we have to do something quickly, what can that look like? I also have schools like PS 21, for example, right? If PS 21 wants to do an outdoor activity, their school butts up right against the park. So you can't necessarily hold a graduation ceremony in the backyard, which is the schoolyard that kids play in every day, and keep the public out after a certain time. So all of those things need to be taken into consideration. You have PS 193, right? That still has that boiler conversion issue going on in their backyard. So they don't have a backyard. So what are some of the things that we can talk about to make possible? I have other middle schools that are saying they want to do like a pseudo graduation ceremony without parents, but make it kind of virtual, but still ask the kids to dress up in their caps and gowns and go in pods into the school and then kind of video them doing that. And then after school, do it for the kids that are remote. So there's a lot of really good ideas happening out there. We want to make sure that we capture them and that everyone's voice is heard, but that we also say, we can ask to escalate concerns, right? Because I've already escalated that today. I was like, here's what it said. Can we have indoor activities yet? So I am on that. It's not that I'm not doing that, but, as of right now, that's not possible. So what is, and that's really where I just want to open up that conversation. Absolutely. Are certain schools able to do things, over others? Yes. 237 has no schoolyard. They have nothing except that huge park, right? And that park, I don't know if anybody's gone past it, but you can go there any time of the day and it is filled with people, right? That's a concern to the school principal that the school principal would be talking about with parents, right? So, okay. I honestly, one of the things that I've always done with President's Council is we've always had open and honest conversations. And right now it is really difficult. I know you are probably getting it just as bad as we are. right? And I know you're probably sometimes at your wit's end when people are calling and yelling at you and you don't know what to do. But I do say, it's okay for you to say to these parents, like, I am escalating your concerns, but let me tell you what's possible and what's not. Right? Okay, now still no questions?
I
Yes,
know that
Loretta.
I'm hoping that the schoolyard is done because we're gonna have a heart attack if it's not. But they promised us that they'll have the asphalt done at 193 before graduation. So, yeah, so, you know, as of 193 right now, we're all set. Outdoor graduation, chairs are rented, caps and tassels are rented, yearbooks are being delivered, t-shirts are done, backpacks are ready, keychains are ready, so we're ready.
Nice.
You know, balloons will be ordered soon. The only concern is that I had a parent call me the other day and say, hi, are wheelchairs allowed at graduation? And I said, of course they're allowed at graduation. And they said, okay, well, since she's not sitting in a chair, that's my third person. I said, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I said, listen, because she's like, well, I don't need a chair because she has the wheelchair. I'm like, it's not about her taking up one of the chairs because it's only going to be 2 tickets per person. I said, I'm sorry, but it's only 2 people.
Right.
And then you have the parents that are asking, well, like my mother-in-law, for example, that goes, well, I can't be there, but I want to stand outside the fence. Like, what do you say then? Like, see, that's another thing. Like,
but you know what, Eleni, I think it's great for you to bring that up because that's something that you should bring to the principal, because then that's communication that can go out to families to say, we still need to honor, because that, you know, Central and the mayor's office were very clear that if we're going to do these outdoor activities, that the plan has to come to the superintendent. It has to be approved. And one of the things that I do have to check are safety measures and socially distancing measures, right? So if you have everybody 6 feet apart in a schoolyard and then rows of people around the fence, then that's not, you know, adhering to the safety protocol. So that would be something that you're not alone. You should not have to say that to parents. You can say to the principal, is this something that we can add to communication to families? Because some families are saying they want to stand outside the fence.
I'll bring it up to her. And also another question that I have is, so say you have 200 chairs, right? And everybody's supposed to be 6 feet apart. How do you set up? Do you put 2, 2, 2, 2? Like, how does it work? You can't put a row with 20 chairs and have everybody next to each other. So now people who are doing outdoors with chairs, how do you set up?
So I'm going to defer to Lewis after I say this, but I think Lewis will agree with me that you could put families together next to each other. Because when I was looking at a backyard, a schoolyard with a principal, she had a very tight schoolyard. She's going to have to do maybe 3 ceremonies.
Okay.
But we did say you could put 2, 2, and 2 together if they're from the same family.
Just like when you go out to dinner, like you don't sit 6 feet apart from the person you're dining with. You sit with them and you're 6 feet apart from others. So it's the same thing.
Right.
Okay. So for example, when I meet with the chair rental company to set up, then I'll tell them 2 space 2.
6 feet, 2, 6 feet. Right.
Right.
I mean, we have a big enough schoolyard, thank God.
Right.
But, you know, I'm sure these concerns are going to come up to other schools now, because now, like my mother-in-law made me think, I'm going to come, I don't care, and I'm going to stand outside the gate. And I'm like,
Oh boy.
if that's just one person thinking about it, it's going to be so many all up against the gate standing, and they're not going to social distance. I think somehow a letter needs to go out that if the ceremony is outside and we have a 2-person minimum, you know, you can say if the graduation is being recorded, you can watch it. Somehow we have to say, the principals have to say, please respect the graduation and not line the fences. I mean, I don't know how that could be worded.
Yeah, you know, I think I wouldn't do that in general, because I think sometimes people who aren't thinking about it will then come in line the fence. Like, to say something like, only 2 guests are going to be allowed on the premises in the area of the school, right? So please make sure that anything that you celebrate, if that's the number that you're doing. But I would definitely ask your principal how to word something like that, but you bring up a good point, right? Like something, like, remember, this is the first time we might be doing something like this. It actually is the first time we're doing something like
Yes.
this. So how can we, what are some of the things that we can think about in advance? And there may be things, Eleni, like you said, that parents may say to you that could bring up safety concerns that you could say to the principal, like, look, maybe we should address this.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Isn't the guideline now 3 feet apart unless they're eating? So technically
3
maybe we
feet
could
apart,
fit more
right.
chairs, right? In a line then, right? Because they're outdoors. They're not eating, they're just sitting. So each family can be spaced, but space 3 feet then from the next person, especially for the schoolyards that are really small, you could fit more of the
So
parents.
they haven't changed for us. First of all, I will tell you, middle schools is still 6 feet apart,
Okay.
right? So there's 3 feet apart is for elementary, but
Okay.
I'm not sure. We could ask Louis. What do you think
So
about that
3
outdoors?
feet, 3 feet's only for kids. It's not for
And-
adults.
Okay.
Okay.
It's for kids,
Only.
and
So
not
even-
middle school.
even-
Middle school
and
is
not
still
middle school.
6.
Even in elementary schools that have moved to 3 feet for kids, the teacher still needs to be 6 feet from them. Adults need to still be 6 feet apart from other adults. So
Okay.
if the kids are sitting alone without their parents, then sure, put the seats in a 5th grade graduation, put them 3 feet apart. That's fine, but not for adults.
Okay. Well, it's only adults because the kids are in the front.
They're in the front, right?
Well, whichever way the principals decide on how to line them up, because now you're talking about 75 graduates lined up. So I'm suggesting that people who are doing outdoor graduations to reach out to their principals to discuss how will the 75 kids be lined up? How will the chairs be lined up? Where, if we're doing balloons, where do you want the balloons? Inform, everybody needs to wear a mask. For schools that are planning the outdoor graduations, these are wonderful questions that.
Yeah,
it
you're
just
right.
also- yeah.
And especially now, also together in working as parent leaders with administration, so many things are changing so quickly, right? So like we're pivoting in so many ways, right? So who knows? Like they may say for outdoor graduations now, and they have not said, but I know for my son's graduation, you either as a parent have to get tested or have an immunization card, right? Like, so we won't say that in New York City, right? But those are some, like you have to come to graduation with either a negative test or this. That's not going to be New York City, but so many things are changing, especially with differences in mask regulations, that you guys should really be in constant discussions with each other about, like making sure that parents have the most up-to-date information about end of school year ceremonies. And Eleni, I know what you're saying, that there are a lot of people that are trying to have huge ceremonies to get the kids to graduate together, but you could also look at having smaller ceremonies, like apart from each other. Like the school that I worked with this week, I said you could do a 45-minute ceremony, with a 20-minute break, and then a 45-minute ceremony, and then a 45-minute ceremony, right? So the 3 different ceremonies if you choose, right? Or if you get stuck and you find that you can't fit enough people.
Okay.
But I know a lot of people want to put everybody together, so I get that.
I mean, if they space them out accordingly, I don't know. Also, another great idea is for outdoor graduations, I hired somebody to come videotape it. That we use them every year to videotape the graduation, and then they are offering, if you would like to purchase the graduation ceremony, you can, which is a great memory to have. For the family members that can't be there, you could also have a DVD for them to watch it.
You mean your PTA hired them? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
But wait, I want to ask this question. If the
PTA 's not-
PTA hires, no, Eleni, this is a question. Maybe it's Esther can answer that, or Ms. DiMango. if the PTA hires a video recording of a graduation, which is of more like, which is not of my kid, are we required to get that parental consent from all the other parents that you will get video recorded? Because if I'm taking a video recording of the graduation, there are other kids in there too.
Yeah, any kind of recording that's going to be done should be run past your principal so they can vet it through legal.
Okay.
And there's a video consent form that needs to be signed. And so Lenny, I think what Esther was basically saying is like, you can't hire somebody and then charge parents money for graduation as a Lenny.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
That, and also that, you know, the board, you have to bring it up and everybody has to agree, not just, you know.
No, of course.
Yeah, I'm just clarifying because there's, you know.
No. Of course. It's run by principals. It's run by 5th grade teachers. It's run by PTA. It's run by.
Great.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that, just like what Eleni brought up, I also know that, like, for example, 185, she's kind of piggybacking her graduation after another school, so she doesn't have to buy double balloons. They're sort of splitting everything. Like, some really good ideas are coming from this. So just share with each other and make sure that you're in constant communication with the school. If there are any things that can't be resolved at the school level, of course, you can reach out to Esther and I to sort of help with the conversation. So we can, you know, look at things together. But I have said to principals, and I'll say to the parent leaders here tonight, like, make sure that when you're making decisions about graduation, that you're actually going to where the ceremony is going to be, seeing what's possible, creating, you know, thinking about what opportunities should look like, kind of like what Eleni was saying, like they went out in the backyard and they said, this is what it's going to look like, and what they're going to need, and, you know, where the stage will be or whatever it is. So just things to think about.
And just so you know, any information that the superintendent might get sent out to the principals, parent coordinators, and then I will go ahead. I send any information to President's Council so they can share with their contact list, which is, so you're getting the information more than one way, President's Council, your parent coordinators, your school, so that we're all on the same page, because as you know, things constantly change. But as today, May 17th, we heard the superintendent, there's no inside graduation.
No, you know, and honestly, I wanted to say it that way because I get a lot of concerns and complaints from parents that say, like, I'm blocking that, or the principal's refusing to do that. So I think.
No, I think it was great because it's clarity and we're all on the same page. And that's why we all come to these meetings with President's Council to learn and get the latest so that we could go ahead and move forward. So as of today, if there was any doubt, we're all clear, we're all on the same page. Could that change tomorrow or the next day? We don't know, but as of today, that's where we're at. And that's what's so good and the beauty of President's Council, because you come to all the meetings, you inform us, everybody that comes and represents your school walks away with the same information. So we move forward. And if there's any change between the next President's Council meeting, you know those avenues that you get the information from. But if you guys have any questions, you have your President's Council email. The board is really good in replying. You have my email. You have you're more than welcome to ask us any concerns or questions that you have. Especially, we know how hectic the last few months of May and June are.
Yep. So, okay, the last thing that I wanted to surface is to just let Christine talk about how she got her PTA out of debt, because I thought that was really creative, and I'm actually looking for the picture of it.
Can I just make a quick announcement, Danielle, before Christine?
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank all of the parents from District 25 for being #1 and signing up for the NYC school account. We were #1 out of all the districts for signing up. So thank you very much. Also, when it came to CEC elections, I believe we were #5 out of all the voting districts. Again, thank you so much for voting. And the next thing that I'm going to ask you guys to do is to please make sure to take time off your busy schedule and fill out the school survey. That would be a great help, and hopefully we'll make it to number 1. That's it. Thank you. Christine, take it away.
Hi, everybody.
I'm gonna
Can
show
you-
it.
Oh, you have the picture?
Hold on,
So
Christine, what school are you from? What's the school?
And
it's College Point Collaborative. It's MS 379. It's
MS
the
379. Okay.
first graduating middle school class this year. So
Okay.
they're a relatively new school, 3 years in the making. So as you all know, or maybe you don't know, recap, we started a chocolate fundraiser with World's Finest Chocolate before the pandemic. Unfortunately, the pandemic did not help our fundraising efforts, and World's Finest Chocolate was not very helpful. They started a lawsuit against us. We owed them $1,595, and they did not want to hear anything about it. They wanted their money, and that was it. So we went back and forth and, tried to come up with, how were we going to pay this money, because we haven't been in school. So we decided to do a ribbon rally, and it actually worked out better than I could have expected. And we sold ribbons to not only the families in the school, but we reached out to community members. And as you can see, the ribbons are all along the bottom of the thing. And then we put those, they're called pudding cups. Louis has the link. He's going to drop it in there. It was really inexpensive. And it's very easy. You put in the design that you want, whatever you want it to say, and it tells you how many cups you need to buy. And if you want to, how many different colors you could put. It was really lucrative. We wound up paying the money back that we owed. I worked out a settlement with them, and I wound up coming out of it after all expenses with just about $600. So we paid our debt, we paid our expenses, and we got some extra money for the PTA. So I feel really good that I'm leaving my PTA with some money in the bank.
yay.
One thing that
I will tell you, the community and the kids love it.
Yeah, Christine, I don't think you mentioned, on each ribbon is the name of the person
Yes.
or organization that she wrote the names of the people on each ribbon. So people actually go to the fence and actually try
And
to
find their ribbon,
find
yeah.
their ribbon.
So
And
like
it's
local
interactive that way.
pizzerias did it. The local College Point Civic Association bought like 10 ribbons.
There was 2 boys.
Another the
There
kid,
was
kids bought ribbons, so we have kids' names on ribbons.
Which
boys? We have all kinds of stuff. It's great. And like Louis said, people go and actually look for their ribbon.
And who prints out the ribbon? The company does?
No, we got ribbon. I bought it's florist grade. It's the ribbon that florists use. And I actually had a local florist was kind enough to donate the ribbons. So
Mhm.
that didn't cost us anything. And then I sat with my co-president, with my vice president, and we wrote all the ribbons.
And
And
how
the,
do the,
yeah, the cups,
oh,
yeah,
wow.
the cups have nothing to do with the ribbons. Like it's two separate things.
And how do the people tell you what they want to
Thank
write?
God
How
you
do
told
they-
me it was cups. I thought it was ribbons up there too.
No,
God,
it's
how did you
those
do it?
cups.
Oh, that's
It's,
beautiful.
And you could do any color, like Christine said, any patterns. You could do logos. They help you design it.
Yeah, they tell you, and it's really like you just put in what you wanted to say, and they tell you how many cups you need to order, and the different colors. It actually, I have to say, it exceeded my expectations of what it was going to look like, the final product. I did not expect it to look this nice. I as we were doing it, I was so impressed of how well it looked. And again, the community loves it. So many people text me and send me messages. Oh my God, look at the fence. It's great. So I feel like it's something that's going to last for a while.
Christine,
You
was
can
there a
do ribbon-
minimum
and you can do
requirement?
ribbons for different things. Like, for example, you could do ribbons for your seniors, and then you could add ribbons at another time. you know, like Thanksgiving ribbons, like what I'm thankful for, you could just continue to add ribbons throughout the year.
Right.
and just
A
do
lot of
fundraiser
people,
every time.
a lot of people wrote on the ribbons this year. A lot of the messages were congratulations to the first graduating class. Congratulations for Johnny for graduating, from Uncle Billy, so it's a lot of, there were personal ribbons and then there were just generic ribbons.
Christine, was there a minimum for the ribbons or whatever anybody donated?
No, we sold the ribbons for $5 each and then 3 for $15. And I mean, we had people buy, $30 worth of ribbons. And then, we sat there and we wrote them. And some people said they wanted a purple ribbon or a gold ribbon. Some people didn't care. So, we tried to, it was actually fun.
Thanks for sharing.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that's
thank
it
you
for
for
me, guys.
sharing. The great part is that the community got involved. So it's beyond just PAPT and the fundraising in the school. It's just like everybody pitched in. So that just shows a lot. So thank you, Christine, for sharing that.
You're very welcome.
Good idea and good tips for all of us.
I really think that every school, I think it's something that every school should look into. It was easy, it was probably one of the less stressful fundraising events ever.
COVID safe. It's outdoors.
COVID safe. And the kids love it. The kids
Why couldn't you
actually
think of
love
this a
it.
year ago when we had no fundraising ideas?
I know.
Exactly.
I actually went on the website right now, put in cups. It's delayed order, Christine.
Oh, sorry. I guess my picture went viral, so everybody copied me.
I know. I'm like, wow, this is a great idea. Let's just tap into it. And then,
but it's something that you guys could do at the start of the school year.
Right,
Back
something
to
to welcome the kids. Yes.
Something like that. It actually, our students actually said, one of the things that they said was, it really looks like a school now. Because we're a new school, we really don't have a schoolyard. And a lot of the students commented that they felt like it was really a school.
That's itself is rewarding. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much. It's like a great idea. Keep coming up with good ideas, Christine.
Hi, everyone.
Well, you'll be gone. I'll be gone soon, so you'll have to figure them out on your own.
Thank you, Francis, for joining in. Francis, before you take over, I just wanted to make sure that any of our parents had any questions from Ms. DiMango. If anybody else has any questions, not just related to graduation, but related to September and opening, because I know parents are reaching out to us here and there about September and opening and how and what it could look like. So if anybody has a question, please raise hands or type in your question on the chat.
In the meantime, I just wanted to comment that I heard of another school, not in our district, that did a car wash.
Oh yeah, that was Holy Cross. The Greek church did it.
Actually, another school that I know of, and they they washed the teachers' cars. Everyone went in for a car wash. I thought that was very nice and very interesting, and I thought it was a fun way for the students to make money. So just another idea.
Oh, Francis Lewis, which is next closer to my house, I have often seen kids do that. Francis Lewis High School.
I see a question in the chat about a remote option for next year. Awesome. So I know that the mayor had said that there will be a remote option for next year, but we want to wait to see what the new guidance is, because, as things change, he also recently said that schools are going to be open next year. So I don't know if there'll definitely be a remote option. As this unfolds, we'll get more information.
So we don't know if it's going to be available.
Not yet.
Okay.
I heard, I don't know if it's true, but I heard they were playing around with, if parents wanted to have a remote option, that they would just have like it would be its own like district. Like you wouldn't have like 193 would have a remote option. Like everyone would be 193. If parents chose to do a remote, it would be its own little thing.
Yeah, I know that there was some discussion about that, but right now, I was on a couple of meetings with that, and there's nothing fully decided about a remote option and what that will look like. I would think as June comes to a close, they will have a more definite answer about what September would look like in terms of remote options.
Do you also think they'll change the guidelines for wearing masks and stuff in school?
I don't know, but as of right now, they have not. So even though New York City is relieving mask wearing in certain areas, not in schools, that has not come out yet. They've been very clear that they're not taking that away from schools.
And unvaccinated people still must wear masks, and that includes most kids.
Right.
What about adults in the school if they're vaccinated? Did they say anything about that? Whether
they're not lifting, right? They're not lifting the mask guidelines in schools right now.
Okay.
In schools, trains, buses, airplanes, stuff like that.
There's another question in the chat.
As of today, and we'll say it everything. As of today, 5/17 at 7:22, they have not lifted the mask rule in schools. Tomorrow morning it could be different, but as of right now, no.
The question is, with remote learning being in place for snow days, will there be more investment in remote tools and training?
Yes. I mean, one of the things that we've done as a district is we worked really hard to kind of maximize around what it meant to have to organize a digital school, because schools were opening and closing so much in the very beginning of this. My expectation for principals was that they created a digital school, and it was something that Dr. D'Antona and I did virtual visits of all of our schools to make sure that was in place. We've also asked for schools to set up virtual curriculum hubs where all curriculum, maps, tasks, units of study are all digital, where everyone has access to them. So if ever we needed to go remote at any time, that could and did happen. So that's why a lot of schools never struggled when they had to open and close, because those two systems were in place. So right now we're engaging in discussions about what worked, and some of the things just in terms of organizationally we will keep, and those remote commitments are going to stay, and that includes training for teachers around using technology in education, not just if we go remote for snow days, but in schools as well, and what that can look like. So yes, we still have a commitment to remote training.
Mr. Mango, I have a question. So I've asked this earlier to other folks and nobody heard it, but I remember in one of the parent chat at not just at the school level, but at a different level, there was a talk going among parents about having pre-Ks to make more room in the school come September, if the school is going in a traditional fashion, to start having pre-Ks all coupled into one building so it can start giving more rooms to the schools. Have you come across something like this, like casually on this?
No, I mean, we have 2 pre-K centers in the district that are solely committed to pre-K, but pre-K is really part of our school communities, right? These pre-K students are our students, right? And so pre-K spacing in rooms and furniture is not necessarily taking away from schools. And I've never had a school say, like, I need to remove pre-K. Most of our schools have maybe 1 or 2 pre-Ks, and the ones that have more because they have rooms. So space planning is constantly watching that, but pre-K is not something that hinders on our space in the building. Actually, many of our principals ask for additional pre-K.
I think what Rashmi is referring to, it was mentioned in the CPAC meeting. And it was a woman who came on, and I forgot what department she was from, but they they were organizing some petition for parents to sign about focusing on keeping the number of students low in a class, the student to teacher ratio. And I think one of those, that was what they were working on for September. That being now that there was an option for remote and in person, it kept the numbers down. I don't know what it's going to look like in September, but they did mention that about the pre-K centers, that in order to give more, to divide more classrooms, they needed more rooms in schools. And they thought of one option. This is just an option that they're thinking, they're proposing. It's nothing that has been changed. But one of the things that they're proposing is that the 3Ks and the pre-Ks are put in different buildings so that they can have more rooms for, I guess, kindergarten and up in their schools. I don't know, again.
So let me just tell you, so we have 2 pre-K centers, and one of our pre-K centers isn't full, and it has not been full the entire time it's been open. And the reason being is because our parents really want pre-K in their schools, right? So, one of the things that I say is pre-K are our kids. So we shouldn't sacrifice our kids or the needs and wants of our parents. It's something that we could ask families, but if families, we do a lot of outreach to fill up our pre-K center. So our College Point pre-K center is full, but our pre-K center right over here on the Whitestone Expressway normally has about a 1 to 2 class shortage. So, and they are expanding and adding more classrooms, and they have also added some 3K programs in there too. So that might be something that we would talk about engaging with our families, but pre-K are our kids too. And I do know just from outreach to parents, because this question has come up, there are parents that have pre-K kids that want their students with their other children in the community school setting.
Here's another question about with the Pfizer vaccine approved for emergency use for younger children. Will it be required for students entering school next year? In the meetings, they spoke about that it was not going to be required. I don't know if you received any.
It's not required for next year, and we don't have any further information on that. But I do know that it's not a requirement as of right now. Well, 3K programs will be in session in the fall for our district. They will be releasing the names of those schools within the next couple of weeks. But I did announce at the CEC meeting that 3K enrollment is still open. I can tell you that there will be 3K seats in our pre-K centers, but I don't know. Louis, do you know if it's on the application or no?
I don't. I actually.
So I do know we will have 3Ks at our pre-K center. We will have them in some of our public schools, and they will also be at the NICEEKs in the neighborhood.
And 3K is for children born in 2018.
Okay, that's really it for me. A lot happening. I do want to say, I know that we do have one more meeting, but I just want to say thank you. And I just want to let you know, as parent leaders, you have been true champions during a pandemic. I know that this was probably a really difficult year for you. I can say that you have all been active and committed to your school and to your parents during this time. It was not easy. I know that we spend a lot of time talking about, what's happening in schools and not enough time talking about our parent leaders. So I do want to take this time to say thank you. You've asked the right questions. You've been there as supports for your school communities. You have made things happen alongside of us that we thought could not happen. And, you know, as I said at the CEC meeting, I'm really proud of the work that we've done as a District 25 community. One of my biggest joys is that I've been going into schools, and even like today I was at 214, and the kids are just so cute and so happy to be back in school, you know, and they're so happy to talk to me, and even through their masks, they're just happy to be back in a place that is recognizable to them and that they know is learning. Our teachers are working really hard to make things fun as they can. So it's just, and I know that parents don't get to go into schools to see this, but it's just such a pleasure to be in our schools and see, you know, and see the joy in our students' faces. And as much joy as you can get from middle school kids, you still see joy in middle school kids' faces, right? So, so I want to thank all of you for your leadership this year and for really working alongside our building leaders and our teachers to make what was a really difficult time manageable for our kids. And I think Dr. D'Antona is echoing me.
Superintendent DiMango, do you know when high school admissions are coming out?
I do not yet. I know Christine asks me every day.
Twice a day.
Every day. I get a text every day. So once I find that out, I'll make sure that Esther sends that to President's Council so that can go out to all you guys.
Okay.
Okay, that's it for me.
It says on the website mid-May, so that's soon. That's now.
Mid-May. It's 2 days past mid-May. They're wrong in that calendar.
So I
Probably
believe,
get it towards the end.
so I believe we were supposed to have our last meeting in June, but we're an election as a special meeting after that to keep it separate, right? Russian's on the phone. Eleni, that's what we discussed, right? That's what we were going to do.
We discussed that we were going to have our regular President Council meeting on June. Refresh my memory.
Yeah, I'm trying to get, I don't have the thing in front of me. Rushman,
I
do
think
you have
it was
the
June
meeting?
21 is your next meeting.
And then elections, we were thinking,
I think
yes,
it was June 24th was going to be our election. So
yes.
that it's easier
June
to
24th.
right. It's easier to manage since it's just be the voting members showing up rather than parent coordinators and from other schools. So
Can I say something? Election is open, but one of the reasons also is because we need all the PAPTAs in the district who already have had election, even though they have to the last day in June. Hopefully everybody by the 24th goes ahead and has a PAPTA. Remember that the president needs to come to that election, register, get a voting code, and that way they could come and select the President's Council board for the incoming year. So that's why it's important that your school has a successful PAPTA election so that then they could come and represent your school at President's Council and elect the new board.
yeah, and so this is a great time now. We're focusing on virtual elections because they're still going to be virtual. There's no waiver, so we expect everyone to go on as usual in June. And this is a great time to start recruiting people, asking people, telling people about the responsibilities, and going back to your bylaws and seeing, are these positions co-positions? Are they just standalone positions? And just really seeing what can be done in your bylaws and then promote it as such so you can get people. Kindergarten parents are very good to recruit, especially they're eager, they come in, they want to help out in some way. People that have been already doing it, ask them if they would like to stay. So the PTA should really, and even though you have, let's say, you have someone who wants to be president and you have someone who wants to fill all the positions, you still have to open it up in the meeting for everyone else in case somebody else is interested in running. And then that's when you start a voting process. So we need to be, our elections need to be fair and equitable for everyone. And, but it's good to have these things in place so that in case no one runs, you'll have people that do run. So please, go ahead, Danielle.
So I'm glad that you said that, Francis. I actually talked about that a little bit at the beginning of the meeting because I spoke to a school that's having a little bit of difficulty kind of getting parent leaders to run for seats. But you also said something that we talked about at our DLT meeting, and Rashmi represents the President's Council on DLT, and so we surveyed our SLTs and we broke down the makeup of people on our SLTs across the district. And one of the recommendations that we made for SLTs is that the SLT works to create some outreach to families and parents that speak languages other than English, and offer translation and other types of supports if they wanted to run for those seats. And I do encourage all of you to do the same, to work with your schools to channel families and parents that speak languages other than English, to make sure that there's communication that goes out to them in other languages, to see if they may have interest in running for PTA, or even to kind of connect with PTAs in general, so they could maybe serve on a subcommittee or any other committees that you have. And that's where I also said that Esther and Jin May would be happy to help in any way that they can, but you can also work with schools to contact the Office of Translation to see if they can translate documents for you, if you can get translators at certain meetings. So I do encourage you to do that. And thank you, Francis, for surfacing that. It's kind of reaching out to all parents in the community so that they have an understanding of what PTAs do, and that right now we're at an election time.
Yes, and it's very important that it's 10 calendar days before the election that parents need to know. And 5 days for a special meeting if you want to hold an election another day. But definitely try to do it before June 21st or June 24th is when our election is. Anyone that's having any trouble, I'm more than happy to help. Rashmi is also available. And the rest of our President's Council board, if you need help, if you need just someone to do, we did plenty of them last year. And we learned a lot about, the virtual world. We learned what worked, what didn't work. Some people did their voting, virtual voting on the ballots on the Zoom, and some people did it. I think, Louis, you did it with a great way with putting the code in Google Form, which was a good way not to put people in breakout rooms, because that could be a little confusing to maneuver. You feel like a DJ, right? And it's like, you gotta put this person here, that person there. So the Google form was a good way for them to put the access code. The parents know. Now remember, the PTA does not give out the parent access code. It is the parent coordinators that set that up. And part of it is to keep it anonymous so nobody knows who anyone is. It does get a little difficult during the meeting to call somebody by their number because you don't know their name. So it does get a little tricky, but you learn to maneuver it. But visually, anyone without a number is the one that you keep asking, like, why don't you have a number? And then we figure it out. Don't forget the people who call on the phones. They also need to vote, and they don't have a number because they're on the phone, but then they can still receive an access code. Hopefully they did receive one already. And if they do not receive an access code and they come to the meeting, they are still allowed to go and vote. They just need to be verified by the parent coordinator. So please don't turn away the parents that don't have votes, because everyone who shows up, if they can be verified that day. And so the access codes are just ways of us to identify the parents that you can, if you run out of access code, I mean, that's a great thing. If you run out of access codes, you can make up some more. They're not like social security numbers. They're just numbers to verify and keep track of how many people attended, if there was quorum, and so forth. The elections are also, we recommend that you record them because then you can kind of see if anyone has a complaint about the election. You have the recording to go look back at and see if something, what they're saying has any validity or maybe a different explanation that you can give if you see something else. And it's also good to take minutes that way as well. You need a note taker. So, obviously the people who are running the meeting is a nominating committee. It cannot be people who are actually running for positions. So keep that in mind. So maybe the outgoing PTA can be the nominating committee. Before they leave, they're not running again. And so you kind of decide who's going to do what. A question came in to the President's Council, which was a very good question. And the question was, what happens if, only one person runs, let's say for whatever, recording secretary, treasurer, or president. If one position is filled, the bylaws say that you have a PTA, so you don't cease to exist, but you're not really a full functioning PTA, which means that in September, you would have expedited elections to fill in the rest of the mandatory positions. Another question came in, Esther, I just want to verify with you. It said, okay, so what if that one person gets elected? Let's say it's the recording secretary. And the recording secretary, is she responsible for running that meeting? Right, because that's the PTA so far, right?
Yes,
Okay.
she can.
So that would be, so in a case where there's no PTA, and let's say everyone has graduated out, then, the principal would have to.
Yeah, the principal and the parent coordinator will then have to go ahead and get parent volunteers to go ahead and get a nominating committee and do the elections.
So
Once you graduate, once you're out, you're out. You got to make sure that you do your transfer of records. But once as a parent, you're gone. You don't need to come back and do the elections if they're not complete. Hopefully everybody's complete like they were last year. And but yeah.
So people who are on the PTA who are graduating out, they can't come back if the school comes to do the.
No, the principal does it. If you don't have a PTA in September, then the principal organizes the election. And then it's kind of similar to what you'll see with the CEC in
July.
In July, right? So somebody else does the election that's not running for president, and then the president takes over and does the rest of the election. So it's very similar to that. But once again, just a reminder, please meet with your principals about exchange of records. If we abide by safety guidelines, you can go in, you can go to your PTA office to organize all of that. And then you can agree to make arrangements to do that exchange of records, but we still need to socially distance. It does need to be, planned with your principal about how to do that safely. So I'm glad you guys brought that up, just to kind of make sure that this month you're meeting with your principal to say, like, in June after the elections, I'm going to have to do an exchange of records. So what can that look like? How can we do that?
So I just want to also point out that parents of incoming students are not eligible to run for office. So for example, if you become part of the PTA in September, not in June, right? Because that's from the existing year. So if you're a pre-K parent, you're not going to be able to run until September. And so therefore parents of incoming students are not eligible to vote as well. Yes, Esther? Yeah.
So that's why a lot of schools go ahead and just do the election for the core members, which is your president, secretary, and treasurer, and then leave the vice president, hospitality, whatever else your school has for September, so that incoming parents that want to get involved are able to go ahead and partake. But you as a PTA could create or open up so your new parents could get involved, and that way you start getting them in so they could then run you have a constant parent involvement so that you won't ever have to have nobody running.
So I just wanted to make sure to add a little bit to what Francis was saying earlier. So yes, if one of the core mandatory positions are elected, the election has to or should happen within 60 days. Unless it happens in June, then the September will be the expedited. But the PAPTA can function, but they do not think of writing checks, but you can do like noticing of elections or other urgent matter, but you should not write checks, because for writing checks, you definitely need at least 2 members. So just so that there's a difference in what kind of function PAPTA can have if they have only one elected member, even if that elected member is a treasurer, but you should still not start writing checks unless you have at least one, if not all the 3 mandatory positions on there. I just wanted to throw it out so that we all understand that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see. So does anybody have any questions about virtual elections or any concerns that they may have this year? It's basically the same way we did it last year. So if you have any questions, please let us know.
I just saw, ladies, you have Sharon Kang here.
Hi, Sharon.
Hey, Sharon, thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
Hi,
Hi, everybody.
So Sharon worked for FACE. If anybody is not aware, she's our FACE liaison. She meets with the President's Council bi-weekly to share information.
Yes, thanks, Esther, for the introduction. I didn't realize, but yes, as Esther mentioned, I am the school-based liaison from FACE, and I work closely with your co-presidents here, Rashmi and Francis in particular, but I'm happy to be here and share this space with you, and just thank you again for inviting me.
So I don't see any questions, so everybody's ready to do their elections.
Yay.
Awesome. That is, does anybody have any dates that they have already ready for their elections?
Wait, Francis, can I just bring one other thing up that I wanted to suggest? And I know that we have very limited time, but it's actually something that I've been looking at, that I'm hoping that parents, just even in an exchange of records that you talk about this too, is that, you know, we as a district have been doing a lot of SEL surveys, and I know that, you know, because many of our principals have been going over this with all of you, just like how we're asking students questions about how they feel. And of course, one of the things that we're preparing is for ways to support our students socially and emotionally upon return to school. And one of the things that I'm encouraging our PTAs to start thinking about is how we can support that for students who have been remote all year, if, you know, in terms of a return to school and how students feel. So really interesting is that we've always asked the question of feeling safe in school, right? We've always had, there's certain things that I've spoken to students about in terms of changing, but safety in school has never been an issue, right? Our statistics have always been the lowest school, maybe 92%, right? But we've always had opportunities where students feel safe in school. So right now I'm looking at one of my schools, SEL data, because I'm doing a write-up on the school, and only 66% of the students say that they feel safe in school. I'm attributing that data, and like we've engaged in a lot of inquiry to look at different things in different ways, but I'm really attributing that data around discussion with students about how they feel towards the coronavirus and whether or not their schools are safe. So one of the things that I'm going to ask for you to do with your principals, and even as you take over for, if you have engagement with your principals in the summer or in September, like right away, talk about how we're going to support our students in terms of anxiety that they feel returning to school. I mean, listen, when I was a teacher, a principal, an assistant principal, every single year I felt anxiety, and I'm an adult, right? So just like starting school, I remember like preparing myself 2 weeks in advance. And think about kids. Kids feel anxiety every year. It's new. You're going to get a new teacher. You have new situations. But now think about what they're returning from. We want to make this, you know, a space where they remember school as a safe place and a place where everyone is looking out for their best interest, for their health and safety, in order for them to learn in the best possible environment. So please engage with your leaders around having conversations about what that can and should look like. Chancellor Porter really did talk about having a homecoming for kids, right? When they come back, like, how can we make school exciting, right? Have the band outside playing, or maybe balloon arches, right? Elena, you're talking about balloons. Like, what can that look like for them? Just so they're coming into a space that's happy and exciting. And we're kind of saying, welcome back, we missed you, and we want you to come here, and it's a safe place, right? So I'm going to be talking about that with my principals, but you know, they're going to need you guys too, because it's about parents and, you know, working together to create those safe spaces for our kids. So I just wanted to mention that also.
Thank you, Danielle. At this time, if there's anyone that has any new business, they want to bring up any questions that they may have, that they, you know, have pertaining to their PTA or next year's or elections, just let us know now. This is your chance to ask them.
Can I just say something, Francis, really quick?
Yeah.
Just a reminder to everybody that once you have your elections, please fill out your PAPTA elect certification form, please. That then gets entered into the SBLCI by your school, and a copy should be emailed to me. Your parent coordinators already know, but please, if you're elected, fill out that information. It'll be it's really important. Thank you.
Francis, you're going to share your great idea? I
Yeah.
don't know if you are able to share the flyer at this point.
Yeah, I think I can. Louis made me let me just get it. So before I share my, wait, hold on, let me stop sharing, sorry. So before I share my screen, our board, you know, we know that every year we used to have like this potluck, right? That was like our last meeting, and everyone would bring something, you know, and then we would have like this little dinner and share, and it'd be our last meeting. So our board, Rashmi, Laney, and Christine, were thinking of ways to kind of share that or have some type of potluck. So we came up with a potluck diversity, in our diversity. And so I'm going to share, let me see if I can find it. It's not yet here. Hold on, let me just see. I'm trying to see how I might have to put it in the chat. Hold on 1 second.
What do you mean? Why do you have to put it in the chat? Just share the screen. You're a co-host, right?
Yeah, I can't see it though on my screen. Let me open it. Hold on, let me just see if I can open it up here. Hold on 1 second. And then maybe it will be able to share it. Let's see. Let me try again. Okay. Okay, can you see it now?
No.
No, I can see it, but I think there is a question on the chat, Francis.
Okay, hold on. Let me see if I could see that.
I see the diversity potluck.
Okay, so what is the question, Rashmi? Can you read it? Because I can't see it with my screen sharing.
Oh gosh, I lost my glasses. Eleni, can you read
it? With all the experience we gained this year in Zoom, has there been any updates to the face guidelines for elections since last year?
I think Sharon can answer that. She's here. Sharon, are you here? Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks, Rashmi. I'm happy to speak on that. So there was guidance that was issued last year for the elections. We encourage you to continue to refer to that guidance to guide the elections this time around, as they will continue to be virtual. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Thank you, Sharon. So we have our diversity potluck. So for next meeting, which will be June 21st, we're asking that in your, you share, if you want to share, what is your family heritage? What language is spoken in your heritage? What is a famous food from your heritage? What is one thing your heritage is famous for? A fun fact about your heritage, and if possible, if you can get a background that represents your diversity, so that when we visually come together, we can kind of see everyone's diversity. And it's just a beautiful thing to see, and to learn a little bit more about, you know, someone else's heritage, so that you can familiarize yourself with it and understand it better. So I'm gonna stop sharing, and I'll put it in the chat.
And we can email it to everybody too.
Yes, because there's not too many participants tonight, but we do want to have some type of, you know, diversity sharing, and it'll be interesting to see, you know, fun facts about other people's heritage. I have mine ready. I have to get mine ready. And if you have trouble with the background, just let me know. I can help you with that. Just email us and let us know. And that's about it. Anybody has any questions or comments, please, you know, unmute yourself, or just put it in the chat, or just raise your hand.
And the board is here. We are here to help you. Anybody who needs assistance in their election, feel free to reach out to us with any questions, or if you want us to host or help you with the actual election day and the process, we are here to help you. Anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, talking points? Nada? Okay. I guess.
Okay, so if no one has any questions at this time, I guess we'll get a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion
Mom, they're asking me something via text. That remember to make sure you announce your elections 10 days, calendar days. That means Saturday and Sunday included. So make sure 10 days before your election, you notify via dojo, whatever it is, blast it out to your school community 10 days before.
Yes,
and that includes Saturday and Sundays. I hope I clarified.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, can I get a motion for some to adjourn this meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, Christine, and second?
I second.
Thank you, Rashmi. So I want to thank all the parent leaders out there and the parent coordinators and principals that have shown up tonight. Thank you so much for the work that you do. We really appreciate it. It makes our district great. Thank you, Esther, Danielle, Eleni, Christine, and Rashmi. And on behalf of the board, we wish you a very safe and good night.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good
night, everyone.
Everybody, good night.
Good night.